Hi, folks. This is just a reaction to Raz's video, which was posted yesterday or the day before yesterday. And I firstly want to thank Raz for talking about it, as obviously it's a very difficult subject to speak about or find some kind of clarity in, which he did. And that's why we felt it was better if he did the video by himself rather than do it with me or Martin, um, because this isn't just a news story for him or an article on Facebook that you type thoughts and prayers underneath. It's something very real and tangible. It happened in his state where he lives, in a city very similar to his own, and to people just like him and his family. And that comes across very well in his talk about it. I think we've become desensitized to these mass shootings, to this kind of violence, and we haven't kind of learned as such. I've been to concentration camps in Poland, and I've been to the killing fields here in Cambodia, and it's more difficult to grasp, maybe because it's a historical event, and the Nazis were defeated, the Khmer Rouge were defeated, so you get a sense of closure in that to a degree, despite it being obviously a horrific experience on both fronts. But you don't get that with these mass shooters, because they escape one way or the other. It's scary and it's pathetic that we accept that they keep happening, and that's a horrible indictment of where we are as a society. 19 little kids and their teachers being slaughtered should be in the public conscious for years, but the sad reality is that it won't be, because something equally horrible will happen again, and the public response will be the same. And it should be becoming obvious after so many of these events, monthly events, I would say, that it takes more than thoughts and prayers. The second thing I want to talk about is the guy who done this. He was a teenager. He clearly had some kind of mental illness. My thoughts on it would be why anyone not old enough to buy a beer in America would be granted access to own a firearm with that kind of capability, or any firearm really, and why he would need something that's basically military grade hardware under any circumstances anyway. That to me is it's incredible. And why did he see shooting up a school as a valid way to vent his anger or illness, evil, whatever you want to call it? Is there a correlation between that and him seeing it as that there's a precedent in society? These people are made into kind of grotesque celebrities by the media. As Raz touched on, violence and gore, they're just a click away on the internet for any of us, and even on mainstream television. You turn on the news every night, you watch the movies, you see these things. So I think it should be obvious now, we need to change what we're putting in our citizens' heads and allowing them to become comfortable with or have access with. or is there some kind of agenda to desensitize the population against horror and death because it's an industry or it's a government policy in certain parts of the world that they're not horrified by these things because they're going to live with them or they're going to be needed to carry them out somewhere else. Finally, just to address Raz speaking about the almost acceptance that you can be killed at any time. Just doing something simple, going to the store to buy like a loaf of bread, by a lunatic with a gun, at your place of worship by a bigot, a racist, at a disco by a homophobe, normal things that most of us take for granted. Maybe you can't take them for granted in some parts of the world, in some parts of America, I spent time in some dangerous places, and I think the fact I knew there was a time limit on being there, or there was some kind of safe space within that place, made it tolerable. The stress that people must feel living in parts of America, in that part of Texas, must be unbearable because they don't have those kind of safe nets. People doing normal shit like taking their parents to the mall, like sending their kids to school, that must be terrifying. And I don't think most of us comprehend that because we don't live in it. And just from the outside, I think the attitudes need to change. As Raz said, that begins with governance and what society accepts as being a norm. It's what the media pushes, how they present things, and what they make available. No normal-minded people or person will accept dead children or putting a high-powered weapon in essentially a kid's hand, or not providing some kind of mental health services or some kind of outlet for the mentally ill or people that have that kind of pent-up rage. And these are the things I've taken from just watching it unfold on TV, and the whole whatever you want to call it, circus afterwards regarding the police, which I won't get into because I think that's a whole other video, the role of law enforcement in society. But it was a very difficult watch and listen, both that and Raz's excellent video. But it was important, and if it made one person question their priorities, where they previously put gun control over the safety of themselves, their families, and society at large, then it was worthwhile. So thanks again to Raz, and thanks to our listeners, and hopefully you've taken something from it as I have. And we will be back soon with something different. That was a difficult one, but as I said, an important one. So maybe we'll change it up and we'll be back with something more light-hearted the next time. But until then, be good to each other and take care of each other. Have a good day, folks. Thank you.